Why use Docker instead going the traditional way? With the arrival of new technologies, the way we orchestrate services has changed in the recent years. And one of those revolutionary tools that has surpassed the old monolithic system is containers. In this case, we are going to talk about Docker. Hey, it's me, Hera. And in this video, I will share with you some scenarios where Docker can rock. But first, I will explain quickly what Docker and microservices are. What is Docker? In brief, Docker is a containerization technology. This means that we can package a service into a container, along with all its dependencies, libraries, the operating system, to separate the service from the infrastructure of the host or the virtual machine. What comes with Docker? The microservices. It's like an orchestra, with each instrument playing its part to make a symphony. Now that Docker has transformed our tech lives, our application have been divided into microservices. All these containers will be running just a portion of the whole services, just like a piece of a cake per container. I will be sharing my own experience using Docker as a DevOps engineer during 3 years, and hopefully you will start loving Docker just like me. But first, let's review some general use cases. Monolith versus microservices. Just like we said, a monolith is a huge entity that embraces all kinds of services from our application. Although we have some benefits of getting everything in the same spot, it also has some disadvantages. For example, the bigger it gets, the harder the management becomes. Also, if there is a bug in any function, it could affect the entire app. And when you make even a minimal change, it requires rewiring, testing, and deploying the whole application. With Docker, we can break down the app into multiple independent and modular services. Do you remember the old modular MacBooks? With containers, we can replace only the service that is failing or needed to be updated, and individually deploy a feature without disrupting the other services. Loosely coupled architecture. Nowadays, with cloud providers and new architectures, the apps are being broken into smaller units. And build has loosely coupled services that can communicate with each other via REST APIs. Portability and productivity. Portability is one of the top 5 Docker use cases. It has the ability to run on any environment, regardless the OS and platform. Containers provide portability since they already come with all the resources needed. We can move them from one environment to another without making any significant change. No more, it works on my local. With portability comes an increase in productivity. We can easily have a common development environment across multiple developers. With tools like Bitbucket or GitHub or any other tools, we can set up an automatic build process from the source and move into a Docker repo. Multi-environment standardization. Within a large team, it's easy to ensure everyone gets the same OS, program versions, node versions, environment variables, and configurations. Even if we use 2 different versions of a library for 2 different services, Docker ensures that there is no conflict between dependencies. Imagine you get hired by a company. If we're lucky, we will have some introduction, a welcome kit, the onboarding, and even a coffee mug. This introduction will be the same for all the new employees. They will start with the same starter pack. Deployments speed up the CI/CD process. We had mentioned before that it requires more time to deploy a monolithic application than a containerized app. We can launch a new container within a few seconds or minutes by making changes to just one service. Every Docker image needs to be built from scratch, and this can be time-consuming. For local development, we have a cache layer. Another plus of having containers for deployments is that we can use a blue-green deployment style. So we can have 2 versions of our applications running at the same time. And once the new is marked as healthy, we can retire the old container without any risk. Reducing cost. With it, the monolithic solution, we could struggle to have different versions of the same library for different services. You will probably need to set up a new server with a specific library version. With Docker, we can easily have a different version of the same library working in a separate container, all on the same server without launching a new server. Easy scaling and management. Docker enables us to instantly spin up identical containers for an application, using tools for container orchestrations, like Kubernetes and ECS to manage horizontal scaling. These tools come with smart scaling abilities to scale up and down the infrastructure on demand. With this smart scaling, we optimize costs as it removes unnecessary containers based on the traffic. Security practices. How secure is a container? By default, they are pretty secure. When a container is launched, it is created within a unique namespace. We can see it has a private and virtual environment with its own network stack. A container cannot access or affect another container running unless these permissions are granted. Even under a DDoS attack, if the container gets to crash, it won't affect the other containers. In the instance, the container will be marked as a resource exhausted and will be replaced by a new one. Personal uses. Now, check out a real-life case I have been working on. My client's infrastructure is mostly broken into several microservices. Some even use old libraries. I usually need to troubleshoot when we have to update or implement a new feature. So I used to install all dependencies on my local machine, but I ended up with a mess in my libraries and package. That's why I decided to start using containers and volumes to run my test. Do I need to test on an old version of Postgres? Bam! I can launch a container running that version. Do I need to execute some queries at Redis? Bam! Another container running with that specific Redis client. So how do you use Docker? As you can see, Docker can be found across any industry, helping organizations to adopt containerization with its open source, secure and scalable technology, and its supportive and active community. These are just some use cases that can help us to keep up with today's competitive market. But the way you take advantage of Docker will depend on your specific project. If you have any questions, visit our channels for more content of containerization or contact our experienced team at ClickIt. We'll be happy to help you. See you next time.